Hi, I'm Micia Mosely, founder and director of the Black Teacher Project. And today I'm joined by Rakim Jenkins, a high school social studies teacher from the South Bronx, who is also a mentor to young folks. Rakim, thank you so much for being with us. We're so grateful for your taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you very much. I'm so excited, and I've been looking forward to this call for a long time. So thank you.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself, about your school context and your community context. What's going on right now?
Amazing. So I work at South Bronx Community Charter High School. We are pretty much we have a different school. We actually do project-based learning in our school. So it's a great model, restorative justice. We have like one-on-one computers. So like it's an innovative school. What I love most about the school is that it gives you the space to innovate as a teacher and not have to be in these rigid rules that our education system is moves through. So yeah, I'm now in quarantine, and I'm just doing my best to teach students, uplift students, and be for students, and you know, get through the pandemic and do the best we can.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and we know that you can't really do for your students if you're not doing for yourself, right?
That's true.
So, when I say put the mask on first. So, how
Yeah.
are you taking care of yourself? What are you doing for yourself?
I still go to therapy every week, right? And like mental health is usually like a stigma in the Black community, especially like Black men. And I was like that with therapy. My mentor was like, "You need to go. You should go to therapy." I think 3 years ago, for the last 3 years, I've been going, and it's been amazing. I definitely do therapy. I drink tea every morning, to center myself and just try to get like small wins. One thing I try to do, because I start distant learning and like around like 9 o'clock. One thing I try to do is I don't start the day without doing something for myself. That's
Uh,
important to me, right?
okay.
And so it might be reading a chapter of a book or finishing my Netflix series that I fell asleep on, right? It might
What you
be
watching? What you watching?
All American. I've been watching All American on
Yes.
Netflix. It's been so amazing.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. That's
like,
good.
yeah, I would say that would be my
Mhm.
pick, All American. Um, so just different things to keep me grounded
Mhm.
before the day starts, right? Because most folks don't understand like online being online on Zoom or like any platform all day can be exhausting. So I really my goal for the quarantine is not to be stressed out in my own house. So it's like finding ways to keep my peace, and that's one of the tools that I use. Like I will not start any work on any project unless I
Mhm.
do something for myself. Yeah. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. Just real gems, words of wisdom. So all right. So you get yourself centered, you get your mind right.
Hmm.
And we know that the South Bronx is one of the hardest hit communities
Yeah.
by COVID-19. And I would imagine many of your students are not just dealing with online learning as a difference or a potential challenge, but the context of this pandemic. So what is it that you find yourself doing for your students in this moment?
Yes. So I'm a firm believer in raising a student voice and promoting choice. Like I believe students should drive the learning and the creation of the classroom. Like it's our classroom when I co-created space. So like anytime a student texts me and saying like, "Hey, I can't be in class today," there's no questions. You're excused, right? They probably have to take care of their little brother. They have to go like their some of my students are living with their grandparents, and they have to go to the store for them. Hey, I'm running errands with my mother, right? Like these are different circumstances, but for what I never question them, ever,
Mhm.
ever. Like if you need an excuse, whatever you need, I'm here for you, right? And I think that's important, and we'll build trust in a way, and build those relationships to say like I'm here for you, right? Some like I don't like late work and all that other stuff, like that's behind you, right? So that's one of the things I do. I also text my students if I don't see them. Like we have a group chat on WhatsApp, and
Right.
most um, teachers like, oh, I'm not going to use my phone and things of that nature. Is like, no, right? Like we are a community. I believe we're a community, and like that helps it. Like they already are group chats, so that's another way. Like I keep in contact with them. Hey, what's going on? Checking in. Sending them videos. As you know, like SYEP was canceled, so I'm
Mhm.
sending them like internships,
And
opportunities.
can you just tell folks what
Yeah.
SYEP stands for?
Summer youth employment program where students
Mhm.
can work over the summer and gain additional income, work experience,
Right.
and just just work over the summer and bring some money in pockets. Probably buy some groceries. I know when I did it, I was so happy to get the check and like be able
Same here. I got my little check. I think it might have been called something different then, but I got my little
to.
check. You can tell me nothing. I was like, let's go.
And and like at this age, especially in high school, right? Like students see the stress that their parents are going through to provide and different things of that nature, and they want to help out, right? And they want to be able to like have some ownership. So that was actually canceled. So I've been sending my students like online, like learn the code. I sent my students the free Harvard education programs. Is like you can do that too, right? I've been trying to find opportunities for them so that they can gain some experience. I try to put money in their pocket. So yeah, we have a little group chat. We talk. When we throw memes. I was joking to one of my students about watching Tiger King. It's really like treat like my philosophy is like teach with love, right? Like it's
Mhm.
funny. My coffee said my tea said the principal ingredient of life is love, right? And
Yeah.
I believe that teaching and love goes hand in hand, right? Like a deep love for myself, a deep love for my community, a deep love for my students. So I tell folks I don't teach social studies, I don't teach history, I teach life, right?
Mm.
So it's not so much about this time about the grades. I told them today, it's not about the grades. It's not about
Right.
we have mastery system attainments. It's about who do you get to become while being in this class? What is your character? What are you going to do towards your community?
Mm.
So we have all of those conversations, and um, I work with students. I just work with them. I work for them. I tell students I don't work for the admin. I don't. That's not why I signed up here. I work for you, right? And I'm
Mhm.
going to put the best interest of you, uh, pretty much at the forefront, no matter the policies or anything of that nature. So we've been having a
Awesome.
lot of fun actually during this time. Yeah.
Right. It allows for a different kind of interaction, I'm
Yes.
sure. Right.
Yes. Yes.
Now, we also know that you've been a leader in other ways. So they're your current students, but I know that you're a mentor to younger kids.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that work?
So I'm a part of the nation of Ndugu and Nzinga. Started 10 years ago. My African name, and my students call me Amalu. Amalu means if you do not try, you will not succeed. So a part of my role as an African tradition as an MIT, which is a Walimu in training, which is a great teacher, is
Mhm.
I'm a part of Kendezi, which is the African art of babysitting. So pretty much we found out over this year a lot of um, people who are joining Ndugu and Nzinga, which is the African Rites of Passage for self-mastery for community transformation. They have kids, right? When we were in college, it was you were in college. It was a bunch of college students at first with my mentor, uh, Baba Adumi, Dr. Lewis McCoy. He started it 10 years ago, along with my other mentors, Baba Lagungo and Walamu Chizalisi. Um, so when we when I started it, it's 10 years ago to college students, but now they have kids,
Mhm.
and I've been creating a curriculum that can really speak to African children, right? Like, what does character look like at this age? And it's from like 0 to about 12, 14, right? And we have different groups. So one of our principles is listening, right? One's ability to follow directions with your ears, eyes, mouth, and whole body, right? And like, how do you listen? Focus. One's ability to concentrate on one thing, right? So I use metaphors. One of my sisters, Hadia, she draws like trace letters of Harriet, H's for Harriet, right? And one
Right.
of my brothers, Akin Sheye, he teaches them karate, right? Self-defense. Another of my Walimu Chizolisi, he teaches them history and things of that nature. Elder
Beautiful.
Eton, she teaches song and dance and things of that nature. So that's what I do in the Nation of Indigenous. It taught
That's
me
awesome.
so much about kids.
Yeah.
Um,
And I love that juxtaposition of your work with younger kids
yeah.
and high school kids. So you get to see that spectrum. So I want to ask you. We've been exploring this notion of rebel leadership and
Yeah.
what rebel leadership means. And when it comes to being a Black teacher, you know, we know that our leadership looks different in many contexts. Um, and so I'm wondering, when you think about this idea of Black teacher rebel leadership, what does that mean to you? What comes to mind?
So I believe that when we're in these spaces of a school building, the main objective is to have a liberatory pedagogy, right?
Mhm.
And we're teachers for liberation, right? And specifically, we're here to teach and dismantle students and dismantle systems and have students challenge systems, right? So my main thing for students is, what are your contributions to your community, right? And
Mhm.
teaching them like, yeah, hey, it's no. When I grew up, it was like, hey, get out the hood and go get a job and go to college and things of that nature. And yes, but how do you bring those things back to the community?
Exactly.
So
Don't
for,
get up and out and leave.
yeah, right. And that's why I've stayed in the South Bronx and Brownsville, where I'm from, because these are the places where students need great teachers the most, right? But they need teachers that are not gonna socialize them to the classroom and manage them, right? And teach, and I call it like teaching the Bacon model of education from the pedagogy of the oppressed. Teaching to oppress, right? Teaching to manage. No, like I teach to collaborate with students. I teach to liberate. So what that looks like in real time um, is talking about the things that matter to students and elevating student voices. Like every time that we talk, it's putting them at the center of the classroom, right? So thinking about what's going on and around the country with the police brutality, right? We had to address that today, right? Breonna Taylor, George Floyd. We had to address these things, right? And today, like I had an open conversation with them. I said, I'm upset, right? I'm frustrated, right? I stayed up to 4 a.m. and I cried, right? And I'm like, and it's upsetting. But what can we do, right? And that's vulnerability, right? That's showing vulnerability and teaching with that like we're human, right? And not just, oh, these things are going on around us in the country and just wiping it to the side. It's like, no, we have to address it. We have to talk about it. So one thing we're doing right now, my students came up with it. We do discussion questions. Um, One thing we do, and they create their own discussion questions, and that's how we go into classes, right? One thing we're doing right now is we are starting, well, they're starting a podcast to talk about like events inside of like social, political, and economic events that affect the Black community with their insightful teacher, right? They call it the rabbit hole kids. They made it all up. They created their own logos. They uploading a website. They created a YouTube
Wow.
page. They created an Instagram page, right? And this is the beauty of putting students at the center of the classroom, right? Because they get to drive the learning, right? They said, oh, you know what? We should create a podcast, right? Because we're all in the house right now, but how do we talk about the injustices that are going on in our communities, right?
Right.
Let's leverage social media. So we're gonna push that out, and I'm gonna help them with it. And it's about their legacy, right? And the main thing
That's
is your
beautiful.
silence will not protect you, right,
Mhm.
from the Lord. And that's what we're doing right now.
I love it. I love it. I mean, it's such a beautiful understanding and interpretation of rebel leadership
Mhm.
because it is shifting power. Your
Yep,
students
yep,
have the
yep,
power
yep.
now. Your students are driving,
Mhm.
and it's not that you just do whatever, you are their guide.
Yep.
And so it's a beautiful thing. So, what do you think is important for Black teachers to know or remember right now?
Yeah. Um, I think right now you not only have a duty to speak out in terms of like what's going on and the injustices of police brutality and things outside. That's your duty. You have a duty to talk about it with your kids, with your students,
Mm,
right? Like they are engaging in the conversation. If you see any of the civil rights movement or Black Power movement, those things were led by youth, right?
right.
The youth will make a way for us. So without youth, youth leadership is important, right? So I would say at this time that's very important, right? How are you finding ways? Um, Also, it's not about the test. It's never been about the test. It's
Mm-hmm.
not about. It's never been about that. How you are instilling character within your students, right? Content without character, it is nothing, right? So how you instilling character, how you teaching students empathy, and right,
Mm-hmm.
social emotional learning, right? How do you building confidence? How you addressing their needs, right? So those are the things with us, and I think for all teachers in terms of rebel leadership, I think what this is calling us to live a life without fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
We cannot be fearful. We cannot see the injustices around us and then see the injustices that take care in our own school buildings, right? You must speak out, right? Um, I, I speak out against administration all the time, right? And I think it's important, right? Not only for our students, but for all of us, right? Because I'm not only making way for, like, if I'm not saying nothing, then what kind of example that I'm creating for my students, right?
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
but
Yeah. So powerful. So important. Um, I'm assuming there's no mistake that you're wearing that T-shirt,
yeah,
dropping these truth droplets.
yeah.
Uh, it's a beautiful thing. So tell us, how can people stay connected to you? How can people stay connected to your work? Because I know I'm going to want to check out this podcast once it comes out with the young people. But you are doing so much. So
Mhm.
yeah, how can we stay connected?
Well, I'm mostly on Instagram. That's my Amalu, Amalu, Aronde, Oronde. Amalu Aronde on Instagram is the pretty much like my social media. I post a lot of things. I post in my stories.
Mm.
And the kids, my students, will like you to follow them on AP Rabbit Hole Kids, AP Advanced Placement Rabbit Hole Kids, and it's a space to hone a conversation, active discussion where youth of all walks of life and different backgrounds and experience come together to talk about some of the world's most pressing issues. So that
I
will be
love
a
it.
final project, and let's see how it goes. Yeah, we're in this together.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. I know you've inspired me. I'm excited for your students to connect with students from around the country and for us to work together and move forward.
Uh,
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.